Hey guys, today we got a really special video because the Echoes of Vana'diel is finally here. In this video, I'll be going through my overall thoughts of the Echoes of Vana'diel from its announcement up until now. When I first saw this review at the NA Fan Fest, I almost cried, man. Goosebumps all over, and it was the moment I went back home and I told my wife she have to play Final Fantasy XIV. There's so many memories for me in FF11, and I don't even know where to begin. I started FF11 from 2005 all the way to 2016 before finally laying it to rest after the Rhapsodies of Vana'diel conclusion. I haven't gone back since as not to sully my memories of the game, as it changed to be more solo-centric and less community-driven ever since. All good things comes to an end though, unfortunately. That is, until this raid series got announced. I always loved the fact that FF14 bring back some other FF series references, like FF5 in Deltascape, FF6 in Sigmascape, and so on. But I never thought that I'll one day see the day where FF11 get represented by more than just monsters and quick references. That said, I won't be covering my full Final Fantasy XI experience in this video. After all, there's a whole 2 other raids coming, so I think it's only appropriate for me to cover what's relevant to each raid. Therefore, today I'll be talking only about the things related to Jeuno, the first walk. Today's video is sponsored by Factor. Get chef-prepared meals on the table in 2 minutes with Factor's ready-to-eat meals, so you can get back to raiding in PF or in the static ASAP without much downtime. Factor now also offers loads of snack options like breakfast, smoothie, juices, small bites, and more to keep you going no matter what's on the schedule. Skip the overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper and way more delicious. Get chef-crafted, restaurant-quality meals delivered right to your doorstep. They are ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, which means more time for you to raid. I'm really jealous that you guys have access to Factor in your region. Fast and delicious, ready-to-eat meals at your doorstep. Now that is a 10 out of 10. Support the channel by clicking my link in the description below and subscribing to Factor. Scan the QR code on the screen as well to subscribe to Factor. Every purchase or subscription helps me create more awesome content for you. Visit the Factor website now. It's easy to browse, and you can find more information and explore their wide array of menus. You can customize your meals or even select one of their recommendations. Thanks a lot, man, and thank you so much, Factor, for sponsoring the video again. Now, let's go back to the video. The first encounter takes us back to Jeuno, lower Jeuno in particular, but not the normal Jeuno. We kinda get Dynamis Jeuno, which is a nice touch to FF11 biggest raid back in the days, even though Dynamis Jeuno didn't take place in this part of Jeuno back in 11. The Final Fantasy XI Dynamis Jeuno takes place in Ru'Aun Garden, whereas this one takes place in the lower Jeuno. This brought a lot of memories back, as my first time doing Dynamis happened to be in Jeuno as well. So many memories of goblins and slime blowing us up. And yeah, that slime is freaking deadly and is responsible for a lot of wipes. Shout out to Fluid Spray, if you know it, you know it. We also get to see more lower Jeuno compared to just the AH area at the end, after the Alliance raid, which is kind of very well represented. As to why it's called the first walk, well, Jeuno is literally the first huge step for every Final Fantasy XI players, as this opens up the world to us, able to start doing a lot more than just around our starting town of Windas, Bastok, and Sandoria. Every Final Fantasy XI players had a story to tell about their first grand walk to Jeuno. For me, I personally remember my first journey here from Bastok to Southern and then Northern Gastaberg, Kronstadt Highland, and then the Roland Berry Fields. That journey legitimately took hours. Hours of hugging walls, scared to all hell to aggro something on the way there, die, and then having to do all over again. But it was worth it. Once you pass through those gates and zone into Jeuno, you'll be greeted by the most amazing hub in the MMORPG history, filled to the brim by players going on with their daily activities, whether it would be fishing Black Souls, texting people with teleports, or doing missions. Definitely an iconic thing to see in Final Fantasy XIV, and they did such a good job to it, as it looks so one-to-one to Final Fantasy XI's version of Jeuno. Fighting Prishe here was a little bit weird, but I guess that's one way to introduce her, I guess. Mechanics are overall pretty interesting, albeit a little bit lacking in variety, but still decent for a first boss. The Japanese VA for her is also really awesome. Alright. Prishe is this very tomboyish, loud, exciting, easily agitated, always dive headfirst in, and throughout the fight and cutscene she's in, she sounds just like that and active and lively as that. I'm 100% sure this is the actual Prishe in FF11 though, rather than just an echo. Can't wait to find out more of a story in this Alliance raid, and hopefully we can maybe see Almia, as it was teased at the beginning of the story. Next, we got the Boyahda tree and the Dragon's Aery. This one is kind of 50-50. in terms of overall player experience in FF11. If you played back then, you definitely will remember leveling here on the robber crabs. The first part of this raid showed us the Boyahda tree and also its iconic monster, and a little nice touch on showing Aquarius. Aquarius actually meant a lot to me, and I'll explain why. This crab is a lottery spawn from the regular robber crabs, and because leveling in 11 is so monotonous and Aquarius was barely different physically compared to the other crabs, a lot of groups would sometimes pull it by accident while leveling. This NM was also one of the NMs I used to farm a lot because in the early days, people didn't believe that it dropped the Damascene cloth. We sold for a lot at the auction house, and it was difficult to solo unless you played Beastmaster or Red Mage. Because I was actively farming HNMs back then, and going to Dragons Aery to fight Fafnir and Nidhogg is pretty common to me. Way before the NA players even came to the HNM scene, I'll often run into this little guy unclaimed and finally killed it, only to get a cloth on my first try. I didn't tell anyone about it and decided to monopolize it, making myself tens of millions of gil at that time when money was extremely sparse. This is also where I met my wife actually. She loved fishing and I loved to level up and camp this NM. So I would often see her fishing near this NM and strike a chat with her. She actually accidentally aggroed this NM once and I helped her kill it, save her life, and we started talking, and then she became my wife down the road. Crazy, right? Then we have Dragons Aery. Everyone who did HNM knows this guy. Whether it's a normal spawn Fafnir or the rare spawn Nidhogg, this dragon was the hottest thing to farm back then. I've been on this NM way early in 2006 and farmed it for like 3 to 4 years before the NAs came into the scene with their goddamn cheat and bots, man. Luckily, I farmed this enough to get almost everything from here before that happened, ranging from Balmung, the Abjuration, and the radio itself. Very nostalgic place, and I met a lot of FF11 friends in here. The fight itself was obviously a lot different from the FF11 fight, but the fact that they bring in darters in here is a very nice touch. The area where Fafnir spawned was swarmed by darters, and because Final Fantasy XI had monsters adjusting their position when collided with other aggro monsters, and Fafnir had a daily attack triggered by the person with aggro standing behind it, people would put darters on top of Fafnir to try to make it spin and use his deadly attack, which is featured in the raid. Spike fail. A shame that it doesn't one-shot in the Alliance raid though. It would have been so funny. Now, since a lot of people probably played 11 back then and maybe did farm this NM, there's a couple of questions for people who used to fight this NM back in the day. You can leave it in the comment below. I would like to know how you guys used to fight this back then, you know. Did you tank it on the left leg, right leg? Did you have similar stories with people aggroing the boss, get hit, just so that you can activate Spike fail? Were you a piece of shit that caused a wipe in the Dragon's area full of people? Whether it's on purpose by accident, let me know. The third area that we went was Ru'Aun Gardens, and obviously we confront the Ark Angels. I legit had goosebumps when we go into this area. The Ru'Aun Garden was the endgame area for a long time during the Rise of the Zealot release, all the way until even the Wings of the Goddess expansion. Every endgame players lived here to camp NMs to spawn the Final Fantasy XI version of the 4 Lords. We didn't get to see them in this raid, but they did show some iconic NM spawns, such as Despo. Fun fact, nobody gave a damn about Despo because no one could kill Byakko early in the days, and no one knew where and how to pop Uli Kumi to get the extremely sought after NM pop item to spawn Byakko. Everyone had a lot of Gem of the West from Despo lying around, and you were selling in Bazaar for dirt cheap. Eventually, this NM became very popular to farm and turned out to be the most competed NM alongside Uli Kumi just to spawn Byakko. Fun times, and although a little bit sad that they didn't really feature the 4 Lords and the MSQ Zealot brothers at all for now. And where is my Century of Zeta music, man? Instead, they feature one of the most iconic and something every player in Final Fantasy XI has done, because it drops the Beast Earring that was so good it kept being a Beast item for years, even being used sometimes today. The Divine Might, man. Fighting these bosses together is very, very rare. You needed someone to get a trigger for the BCNM from Romave every full moon within a certain time frame. You got one shot, one opportunity, and everybody wants in. It was a chaotic, hard fight for everyone back in the days. I was so happy that they've added this fight instead of 4 Lords, to be honest, and the Zealot brothers. And they nailed it. They made us fight all 5 of them, and unlike Fafnir earlier, they actually seem exactly like it did in FF11. They are running all over the place, doing their own thing, and it's just chaos and mayhem all over. There's actually even a cameo of the Final Fantasy XI skill chain that I didn't notice it the first time. This happens with the Archangel Galga using Meikyu Shisui, a samurai ability that allows you to use 3 weapon skill back to back without TP cost. The Galga used Tachi Yukikaze into Tachi Gecko to form Fragmentation, a level 2 skill chain with a diamond-shaped wind and lightning aspected skill chain, and then closing it with Tachikasha to make light. This is extremely nice to see. They put in so much details into this fight, even though it looks different, but it brings back so much memory to Final Fantasy XI Archangel fight. Very 10 out of 10 fight for me. To be honest, they really did this fight to perfection in presentation. Would 100% hope that they do more for Ru'Aun Gardens in the future, because this place is gorgeous. It looks so well done and beautiful compared to Final Fantasy XI Sky. Thank you for the development team for making this. Lastly, we got a Shadow Lord. Honestly, this one is a little bit anticlimactic, not because of the fight, and let me explain why. Shadow Lord was actually the quote-unquote final encounter of the Nations expansion, which is basically the base game. It is midway through the mission, but then it was considered the final mission. I think it was mission 5, the final mission, until they expanded it with the introduction of Rise of Zvahl to mission 10. Like I said earlier, you literally just get to mission 5, then confronted him in his keep and then his throne room. That's pretty much it. Pretty simple tank and spank, and then it was over back then. You rush to clear this at the beginning, especially for NA release, because NA started Final Fantasy XI from the Rise of Zvahl expansion. So most people just rush this so that you can play the expansion and go to Sky. The story itself wasn't bad. It was just really simple. You know, Beastman wanted to take over the nations, and then, you know, they summoned and it was being led by the Shadow Lord, yada yada yada. There wasn't much there until its return for Dynamis, where the Shadow Lord became the Dynamis Lord, or known as the Dynamis Lord, that it became more iconic because Dynamis was the endgame raid back then, and then Dynamis Lord was the endgame boss in the raid. Otherwise, the Shadow Lord himself isn't really much to talk about or remember. However, compared to what it was in FF11, I appreciate the effort that the Final Fantasy XIV dev team has done to make this a very respectable fight in Final Fantasy XIV. Mechanics were fast, mechanics was unique, visually very well presented, and honestly, I think this final boss is a lot better than some of the final boss, for example, say the Puppet's Bunker, or even the last boss in the final 24-man raid in the Myth of Eorzea. Finally, them playing the Awakened BGM was a really nice touch, as we really only heard the Awakening BGM in Dynamis Zakabat, where the Dynamis Lord is located. Otherwise, we'll be hearing very boring Shadow Lord music, which is, you know, the Dynamis normal theme. So really nice putting Awakening BGM in here. Overall, I really like what they did to give us a glimpse of the classics in Final Fantasy XI in this first installment. Jeuno at the very end is also a visitable town, such a nice throwback to us FF11 veterans. I met Yoshi P enough times, and I don't think I got any questions left for him since I asked him everything I had in my mind for the last 10 years. But let's just say if one day I were to see him again, I'm gonna ask him this: Yoshi P, please make Jeuno a hub. Give us a teleport crystal in there and a market board. The AH is literally right there, man. Just give us an Aetheryte and let us, at least let a few of us, even if it's a few of us, you know, have a little win with a Final Fantasy reference. A Jeuno town would be so nice, you know. You can even make it like a Solution 9 type of a secondary hub. Please, I beg you, please. Lastly, the story for this 24-man seems like they finally know how to piece everything together properly than just a crossover. Without spoiling too much, the fact that they managed to piece the MSQ and the raid story, the Arcadia, and then this 24-man to have a very common theme excites me on what's coming in Dawn Trail and the future in terms of story writing for optional content, mainly the 24-man and also the raid into the MSQ. The gates have finally opened with how the MSQ play into all these other optional content. Literally nothing is impossible now for Final Fantasy XIV rather than just fan service, collaboration, etc. We could actually really see everything, if not already, in the Final Fantasy franchise to be real canon in Final Fantasy XIV storyline. Overall, I am pretty happy about this first raid. I wouldn't give it like a 10 out of 10, even though I'm very biased. But, you know, just the fact that they bring it in, it was the first installment, they can't really show much, they didn't want to do too much, but I think they did enough to make this first raid here, in my opinion, an 8 out of 10. Most of the things they put in are very iconic. I remember everything, and dude, Final Fantasy XI just got so much down our memory lanes, man, for so many of us Final Fantasy XI players. So can't wait for the second installment. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this video, and I'm really sorry that we haven't have a curated video like this for a long time. Shout out to my editor, obviously now coming back, and you know, we can finally make good videos again, I guess. Hope you guys like this video. Drop a like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. I really want to hear from a lot of you players, whether, you know, you never play Final Fantasy XI or you are a Final Fantasy XI vet going through this raid rather than just experiencing the just a 24-man raid. But how do you feel, you know, about what you see and what stories do you have just with this limited implementation of some of these references they brought over. Thank you so much again guys for watching. I will see you in the next video, and yeah,